G'day all. This is something a little bit different. I saw on the Banggood sales over Christmas the Mini Eagle. Well, I don't know how mini, it's supposed to be 1200 mil. On sale for about 60 Australian dollars. And I've picked up the recommended motor and ESC, although the ESC was out of stock, so it's actually been replaced with a Beatles ESC at my selection. It comes with a XT60 and some, I want to say maybe 2mm motor plugs. The motor here doesn't have any plugs, so I'll have to see what I can do about soldering those on. It does come with mounting hardware, collet, and it's a Race Star. That was their recommended motor, 2212, 1000 kV. Let me show you all the parts and pieces in the box. So there's everything out of the box. I've got the wings, the wing tips, tail section, some leading edges for the wings and the fuselage, as well as all the associated bits of carbon and push rods and everything there that you need to build the airframe. It does say on here that there should be glue, which is not included. I'll probably just use hot glue to put that one in. I guess the instruction here is for any of the versions. Pretty clear pictures. I don't think it's going to be very difficult to put together. I'm going to do that and I'll get back to you if there's any issues. Just while we're waiting for the hot glue to warm up, just a couple of observations. The trailing edge here in the instructions is a little bit different to the trailing edge that comes, which is good because it means we don't have to put this one on. Where in the instructions that does look like it was originally a separate part. I have noticed also too that they're telling us to cut, and at first I didn't really quite understand that until you lay up the part under here. You want to make sure that the edges of the main wing and the edge of the image that's printed on the feathers here match up, and when they do match up, there is an excess underneath that you need to trim up. So let's see if we can see what that looks like. Alright, so there's the top of the first wing, and what I did was just laid the end tips down, laid some glue onto the main wing and then pressed it into the right place so the image matches up. But if we have a look at the other side, you can see that there is a bit of excess foam that we'll need to trim off and just make that line up a bit nicer. Once you've got the tip on the wing, just to trim off the excess, I found the easiest way was to put some angle on the blade and just to run that down using the tip on the actual wing, and then that just made a nice smooth finish. Our next section is the fuselage, or the body of the bird, and I've just used a CA glue on the wooden parts, and I think I'll use CA rather than a hot glue there to join the foam to the wood. I think that'll give it a better join. So the section that goes on the top in the front needs to bend down. So before I start to glue that in, I'm just going to bend that up to give it a little bit of pre-formed bend before I try and get that in there with the glue and make a mess. And like I did with the back, this section, just a bead of hot glue onto this piece and on one side, and make sure that it's lined up, and then once it's in, this will easily spread, and second piece in there. So we'll just get that formed up. Seam again on the bottom, this needs to follow the line of the body, so what I might do is just glue in the leading edge, get that positioned correctly, and then run a line of glue along the edge and get the rest. Alright, so here's one to check. I've just glued on the triangular piece of timber onto the back, which the tail piece goes on, but just notice that once that goes on, there's going to be a little bit of spare material here at the end, which I kind of wish that I had just checked that, and I'll cut that piece off now, but it's going to make it a little bit more difficult now that I've glued it on. But that's alright. I'll take a small saw and trim that up. So I've hit a bit of a snag. So with the recommended motor, which is the Rockstar, and the motor mount here up against the front of the underside of the body, I don't know if you can tell here already, but we're going to have a bit of a problem here when we try and put a prop on. And aside from the prop actually supplied with the plane not fitting without being drilled out, that is not going to work. We're going to chop the nose off. So we're going to need to pull the motor mount back out. It should be okay. It's just the hot glue can be cut out, and try and mount that further forward somehow and modify it so there's still got something in the back. So I guess before you put the bottom part in, see how long your motor is and bring it further forward. Alright. G'day guys, well here's the final product. Not too many problems getting it all together. I had a couple of questions about this one. Another friend of mine, Mark, has got one. He had slots through there, front and back, and underneath as well. I seem to think that the instructions indicated they were to assist a bit of strength for the rubber bands to run over them. We'll see how it goes. I think that's a pretty strong sort of wing. The other thing is the leading edge addition here. I've got sort of parallel with the actual bottom of the wing. A pretty standard sort of setup for the servos. I've got a 4-channel receiver and the ESC up front. I was going to run the push rods diagonally across. They seem to have less pressure on them laterally, but if I did that, it meant I couldn't put the battery in. It would cross over where I'd want to be able to put the battery in. And with the 1300s that I'm going to put in there, it's still a bit fiddly, and I'm going to have to sort of muck around to get those in there, but it does seem to balance okay at 70mm off the leading edge, with the battery pushed up against the edge of the servos. And that's with the recommended motor. That's the Rockstar 2212. I did have to muck around with that motor mount, and I've ended up building that out with some foam board that I had. I thought that was all lined up. I think here the issue is I should have lined up the back with that pitch here and brought that right in on the end, which would have put the front that much further forward and lined everything up. Look, I don't think it's going to be a high stress airframe, so I think that'll still be okay. I'm not particularly ecstatic about these sort of glued on clamps here. They do feel, strong. I've used CA glue and then gone around sort of the outside and a bit of hot glue as well. The control horns seem really good. There is a little bit of flex, but this is EPP, it's very flexible anyway. I've run a couple of hot glue hinges to reinforce that over the top, which is just a little bit of hot glue and then smear it off on both of the tail surfaces, just to give that a bit of strength as well. I guess the next thing is waiting for a good day to test her out, see if the other birds like her. Thanks for watching. If you've got any questions, post them as comments and I'll be happy to answer them. Well, here goes nothing. We got Mark. We'll have a formation, so we'll have a flock of eagles. Whoa. So that seems to be pulling up. I reckon I've got a bit of a thrust angle on it. So we might have to keep on a very low throttle. Could do with a bit more control, I think, too.
Oh well, that's the end of that. Alright, well, so the nose is not very strong. I had that CG set right on the 70mm mark. So I reckon that, yeah, that's probably too far back. I reckon that was just dropping the tail. And we might have to reinforce the front with some ice pole sticks and give it another go.